Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Esteem Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed all-new Esteem series adventure. Pre-order your copy of Esteem Season of the Witch Girl at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. One of my viewers wanted to know if Shaft or original Black intellectual properties should be treated like James Bond or Doctor Who. Now, the viewer proposes, based on the speculation regarding Idris Elba or another Black British actor being shoehorned in the role of James Bond, should we have original Black IPs that should feature multiple actors assuming the role of the lead character in different stories. And they are proposing that this could be a way to create a lucrative franchise for a Black intellectual property, and I believe that this could be a way to make for a great Black intellectual property where different actors can take on a different on the same role in different stories, and I believe that this would be very viable. However, I don't think it would be viable with a character like Shaft. Now, when it comes to a character like Shaft that was played by the late Richard Roundtree, many people assume that that character was a Black character. Unfortunately, that character was a Black character created by a white man, no different than the Black Panther, who was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. And what you're seeing on screen with Shaft, like you did with Black Panther in 2018's MCU adaptation, is a white person's vision of what it means to be Black and what they believe Black represents to them, and not what it represents to ourselves. Now, when it comes down to a Black IP, as I see it, we really do need to go out here and create our own instead of going out here and taking on adaptations based on some white person's vision like Shaft. And when it comes down to the whole character of Shaft, while he was cool for the 1970s, the character has basically run his course. He ran his course through several movies and a TV series in the 1970s, and in 2000, the character came back with Samuel L. Jackson in the role, and the character sadly had an ignominious end in, I believe, a 2016 film that featured the late Richard Roundtree, Samuel L. Jackson, and some beta male who I just don't want to even talk about. And when it comes down to the character of Shaft, the character has basically run its course. And when it comes down to Black people, we need to start thinking about creating some brand new IPs based on ideas as related to our history and our culture. And I believe that, again, it would be good to see a franchise made where different actors could take on those types of roles. Now, the viewer wants to know what would be my vision for a Black IP, which would feature different actors taking on the role of the same character in different stories. And my vision for that type of story would be in a foundation of a character rooted in Black culture and Black history, something very similar to what I do right now with the character of John Haynes and even with the character of Isis. Now, with both of those characters, I basically have both of those characters in serialized stories right now, and in those serialized stories, they're basically designed to be like original Black IPs, and again, to be original Black IPs where we get the same character, but the same character is featured in different stories, and as they're featured in different stories, this is an opportunity for different actors to take on the role, and take on the role as they are in self-contained stories similar to James Bond, where they have their own beginning, they have their own middle, and they have their own end. However, I would want to have them all be a part of an overreaching arc where you would basically see a overall character transformation arc over the course of those stories. That's what I would want to do with those types of stories as related to that Black IP, and have it where you could get to see different ranges of the character and have different actors taking on the role. Again, they're playing the same character, but they're coming at it with different approaches, similar to the way Sean Connery's James Bond is different from Roger Moore's James Bond to, again, Timothy Dalton's James Bond, and I believe the other guy, I forget his name, but he was in GoldenEye, and again, his James Bond. And Pierce Brosnan, that was his name, Pierce Brosnan. I mean, each of these guys played their own take on James Bond, and while the core elements of the character were there, they put their own touches on that character, and that's the type of approach that I would use, again, for the type of stories that I would do with a character, again, like a John Haynes, because with the John Haynes character, again, this would all be a part of organic character progression because, again, characters change and they grow over the course of an overreaching arc. So, again, you could still keep doing the stories, but the character would be continued to allow to evolve and change. Same thing that I would do with the ISIS character. Yes, you could have one actress playing the role and then have another actress in a different story. Again, you could still have them transitioning from one story to the next as the series goes on. And this could be, again, done with original characters, and you could get the rich depth and character development that guys like Cheo Hodari Coker presented in the Luke Cage series. Now, when it comes down to my vision, I would basically be looking at visions from, again, guys like Cheo Hodari Coker. Cheo Hodari Coker, again, was a brilliant producer, and he had great vision as related to film. And his presentation of Luke Cage would be my template for characters like John Haynes. It would basically be the template for John Haynes, and the template because Cheo Hodari Coker did a great job of taking us into a world that gave us black history and black culture and captured real black life. I mean, when I look at Cheo Hodari Coker's Luke Cage, it really shows us and encapsulates the actual black life that goes on here in New York City. And that's what I would want to do, making New York City's black community into a character in the story, as we're following the story of a character like John Haynes as he's taking on Lucifer and his Legion. We would be seeing a New York City from a black perspective. We would be seeing it from a black creator's perspective, and it would show us a richer picture of black life. And when it comes down to the ISIS character, I know she would be definitely a perfect fit for what the viewer is proposing, because the character is about 2,000 years old, and with the character being 2,000 years old, we really could go out here and show the character in different eras of time, like I did in the story ISIS Imitation of Life, where I take the character and show you life in the comic book golden age of the 1930s and Jim Crow. Or I could take you back to 1883 and the days before ISIS suffered the tragedy that led to the death of her husband and her son through the Ku Klux Klan. Again, the character you could have multiple actors assuming the role of ISIS from her time. Again, in different eras, you could do a story of her in Nubia with one actress. You could do a story of her in Egypt with one actress. You could do a story of her in Japan with one actress. You could do a story of her in America with one actress during the times of the Civil War. And you could do one after the Civil War, and you could do one at the turn of the century with different actresses, and eventually you could do one with her and one role as the goddess next door. Again, this character is perfect for that type of story, where again you could create a lucrative franchise around this character who's in different eras with different actresses playing the role, and do different stories in different times, and it could be very compelling. Again, it's all about the stories that you're gonna tell, and again, the character would be a perfect fit for that type of story as related to my vision. I mean, again, you have a character that's over 2,000 years old, so you can go to different times and different ages, and we could see how this woman basically was a part of these different ages, again, not knowing about her role as a goddess, and then eventually learning about her role as a goddess, and we could go into these different types of stories, and people would be following the Isis character and following her story the same way they would be following the John Haynes character. So you're not really, again, wedded to an actor as related to that story because you're following the character. And if you're following the character, then you can, again, get into their stories because, again, when you have a good character, again, can draw viewers in and get viewers excited. Get viewers excited about that character the way people get excited about James Bond, the same way they get excited about Doctor Who. And again, when it comes down to my vision, I would be similar to Chio Hodari Coker with Luke Cage, where you're getting a picture and a snapshot of Black life at a certain time. You would be getting a snapshot of Black culture at a time. You would be getting a snapshot of life in the world at a time with Black people in it. And I would want to make stories that basically revolve around predominantly Black casts and show you, again, different pictures of Black life. Again, that would be my vision for that type of storytelling. I would want to go out here and show you, again, that picture of Black life so that you can be taken back to those times. And again, give those opportunities to Black actors so that they can show their depth and range, as related to storytelling, and show, again, that picture, richer and more diverse picture of Black life by showing you unique Black characters. Now, this would not only be with just the Isis or the John Haynes character. I would also be out here making original characters, again, to try to tell those type of stories because, again, franchise characters, again, one of the things that you have to understand is that you have to make sure that every story is self-contained and with a beginning, middle, and end. That's what I did with Temptation of John Haynes. I mean, Temptation of John Haynes basically is a self-contained story, and I bring the characters back for Man Who Rules the World, and then after I brought them back for Man Who Rules the World, where John Haynes took on God Cassius, I then brought them back for another story, which was The Conversation with Death, which basically was a new entry point after Man Who Rules the World, and then followed that up with other books like Dark Succubus, which I know would make for a great movie, just like Isis Dark Incubus would make for a great movie, and other stories, again, that I could do, like The Man with Nothing to Lose. All these stories, again, you could just do one after the other, and since they're all self-contained, you wouldn't have much problem, again, making a franchise out of each of these stories because they would show you, again, how the John Haynes character is in a larger world and dealing with different aspects of being a CEO, different aspects of being a follower of God, different aspects as related to the mystery of his supernatural abilities. I mean, there are so many different concepts you can go out here and explore with this character, so many different concepts you can explore with different actors. And again, you're not wedded to an actor, you're going to be wedded to the story. And again, you might have one actor play the role in 2 or 3 stories, and then have another actor come in, and then come in after that, and then have maybe another actor who wants to come in. Again, opportunities to go out here and take this role and make it their own, and again, make it a signature for themselves. I mean, when it comes to James Bond, again, my favorites are Roger Moore and Pierce Brosnan. I mean, those are 2 of my favorite James Bonds, and there are other people, they like other James Bonds, they like other ones in the franchise, but the whole thing is that you can pick and choose your favorite ones and pick and choose your favorite stories, and you can still continue to make money with those stories. You can continue to make money because we're following a character. We're following a character in a story. And I know that this would be, again, a great idea for original Black characters. again, and we have to come out of looking at characters like Shaft, because again, Shaft was a character of his time, and it's time to start focusing on some new characters, time to focus on some new characters and some new stories, and because the next generation, they want to see their stories and see their stories in action and see their stories in action and be able to see life revolving around their things. And that's what I want to bring a vision to. Again, my vision would be, again, in the model of Cheo Hodari Coker, who I consider to be one of the great black producers. I mean, he really, again, showed us how you could make a really great cinematic story in Luke Cage. And I would definitely want to go get Sally Richardson Whitfield as related to directing, because I think she has a great eye for film, because what she did with the Luke Cage episode with, I think his name was Bushmaster, that was her episode, and it was one of the best episodes of Luke Cage. And I would want to, again, go out here and create something on that level. I mean, I would also go out, try to find Kevin Greville, who's good at directing and really solid at directing, have him do a couple of episodes, even come in again as related to the series or the character, and come in and do some writing. I mean, there are some really talented people out there, and I would like to work with those people towards, again, creating that type of IP, like a John Haynes or an Isis or an Esteem, well, Esteem really works with Isis and John Haynes. That would be part of a universe. But I would be willing to do something like that. Same thing with even with a character like Spinsterella. A character like Spinsterella could easily be played by different actresses like Kiana Martiera, who is absolutely fantastic, or as a young Matilda, or I could go get another actress to be an older Matilda. Again, you could do these IPs and again have different actors taking on the role at different stages of a character's life and range. So there's a lot of talent that could be, again, go out here and actualize their potential. A lot of opportunity here as related to this type of IP, because I create those types of IPs with characters like John Haynes, characters like Isis, characters like Spinsterella, again, characters that could, again, easily be turned into a franchise. Again, that's what Spellbound would be with Matilda's baby bat years, or Mad Matilda, which would be a little bit older Matilda, or the much older Spinsterella that's in Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Again, there's an opportunity here for different actors to assume that main role and create really great stories that show us a richer picture of black culture and black life. There's an opportunity to tell some great stories about black culture and black life, whether it be in a fantasy setting like the SJS Direct Universe, or in a more contemporary setting like Spinsterella. I mean, there's opportunities all around as related to this type of story model, and I really see, again, just a lot of great things you could do with this story model, and basically, again, doing those different stories and adapting those different stories. A lot of opportunities here to tell some great stories, and basically, again, give actors opportunities to, again, show their range, and basically build up some buzz and excitement. Build up some buzz and excitement as related to that, to these types of roles. I mean, because again, if you could have more than one James Bond, you can then have other people, again, playing these type of roles with black intellectual properties. But we have to go out here and start supporting those intellectual properties by picking up the books so that they can become popular enough to become adapted. That's one of the things that, if you, again, I want to see people do with John Haynes or Isis or Matilda or any character on the SJS Direct imprint, because you got to build that buzz as related to popularity to be able to get to that level to make an IP. And a lot of people, again, don't understand that IPs, in order for them to have value, there needs to be a base to support them, and you need a strong base to go out here and support them. A strong base that will go out here and, again, show people who are in investing, not Hollywood, but investing, again, that there is a base that will go out here and be there for the box office, or be there for the streaming, or be there to pick up the videos. We need to see that base in buying the books. I mean, in order for us to get original black IPs, we need to have a following. Now, John Haynes was starting to get a little bit of a following. I mean, people do know who the character is. People did pick up a conversation with Death, and they picked up the many John Haynes series books, but the whole thing is you need a big following if you want to see black IPs, again, made into films and made into merchandise. We need to, again, build that base. And I know we can do that because we have a burgeoning and growing black fantasy market, but we've got to go out here and have people spending the money to show that there is going to be a base. We need, again, people going out here and picking up the book so that we can have the hundreds of thousands of sales, or even just maybe 10,000 sales. You've got to have a base that you can go to, so you can go to investors with to say, hey, if you want to make this IP into something else for adaptation of film or adaptation for merchandising, there's a customer base there. And this is where black people, again, don't really understand about business. Again, you need to, again, have those numbers. You have to have those numbers to say, hey, this is worth taking a risk on. This is worth spending money on. I mean, this is the other part. Again, in order to get to that point, you have to have that audience that's established there, because people don't invest in something unless there's some numbers there. And that's how things work in this business. They work in this business where you have to show that, okay, there are some numbers. Now, when it comes down to certain books, like A Conversation with Death, basically, that book has over 100 or 150, 200 copies sold since 2018, but we need to have more numbers. So I really like what the viewer is proposing, but we need, again, to build that base. And again, that's one of the parts of my vision, is to build that base so I can go, when I turn into different companies and have meetings, you can go and say, okay, John Haynes series has sold over 100,000 copies or 500,000 copies. So there's a base of consistent customers there, and that consistent base of customers is ready to buy the product. So they'll be ready to go out here and see the first film. And if they can see the first film and see that it's great, we can build that base and possibly build a base where we can start, again, building that platform towards reaching that larger audience so that we can go out here and make that lucrative franchise that features a black lead character. Now, this was a video requested by one of my viewers, and if you want to request a video, you can send a donation for a minimum of $15 to the PayPal or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if I know something about that subject, I'll make that video for you. And if you want to continue to support the work on the SJS Direct imprint so we can have these IPs turn into wealth-building assets and reach a larger audience of people with a positive image of black people, you can go head over to Amazon.com and pick up the books like The Temptation of John Haynes, Spellbound, and Isis Amari's Revenge, which are the start of the SJS Direct universe for those characters. And you can continue to pick up those character stories in books like the Isis series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, books like the Spinsterella trilogy, and books like Eternal Night. And that's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Support black-owned and black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.